All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Impact of Amazon's One-Day Prime Delivery on Walmart Sellers, sponsored today by our friends from Cahoot. We've got Mike McEvoy and some folks from his team here to spend some time with us this afternoon. We're expecting a good deal more people, but out of respect for those of you who have arrived on time, we will begin on time. Mike, again, thank you so much to you and your team for putting the time into preparing for this, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Matt. Well, as Matt said, welcome to today's webinar on the impact of Amazon's one-day Prime delivery on Walmart sellers. Before we get into the webinar itself, just do a little bit of housekeeping. Let me get to the next. Bear with me for 1 second. There we go. And I think Matt covered all this a little bit earlier, but webinar recording will be made available. We won't need your camera or microphone. Use the Q&A there to chat questions, and we'll try to answer those as we go along today. We'll save a few probably for the end to answer those at the end, and we'll do some live polling throughout. Again, I'm Mike McEvoy. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Cahoot. And joining us today as panelists are Cahoot's founder and CEO, Manish Chowdhury. Manish has about 20 years of experience in e-commerce. He founded an award-winning order management system called Pulse Commerce. He's been featured in a lot of industry-leading publications like Fast Company, New York Times, Total Retail, a number of other publications. Also on board is Aldi Juano. He's our growth manager, and he'll be on board to help answer questions as well. So to get us kicked off, Matt, I'm going to call on you to launch our first poll. This will give us a little better feel for the audience today and kind of what you're interested in learning about. So on the first one there, if you could just let us know, which marketplaces do you sell your products now? It is, multiple choice, so you can, choose as many of those as you're active on. And then the second question is more around, what you're interested in learning about today, so we can make sure that we touch on those aspects, while we're, going through the webinar. So seeing some poll results starting to come in. Looks like a lot of people, as I expected, are selling on multiple channels. That's definitely the trend and the smart move to make these days. So we've got some good feedback on that. And we'll give it just another couple seconds here. And then Matt, if you don't mind sharing those results, that way we can kind of show the audience what a little bit of feedback on kind of the results there. Oh, maybe I have to do that. All right, let me share those real quick. So as we can see there, as expected, a lot of people, of course, sell on Walmart, fair number as well on Amazon. Other popular ones are eBay and Etsy. And of course, I'm sure other there could be websites and things like that. Looks like a lot of people are interested in, what the new SFP requirements actually are. A lot of people are confused by that. A lot of merchants are really scrambling to meet those at the moment. A lot of people interested in the topic there, which is good. The impact of the new SFP requirements on Walmart sellers. Some other good areas there in terms of additional fulfillment locations, pros and cons of different options. So we'll be covering all that here in the webinar today. So that's good stuff. All right. So let's move on to the webinar itself. All right, so this will give us a little idea of kind of the arc of what we're going to cover today. First thing that we'll touch on is consumer expectations around fast and free delivery. I don't think there'll be any surprises there. Next, we'll get into decoding Amazon's new seller fulfilled Prime requirements. And there's some details in there that, again, some people are finding confusing, finding it hard to really meet the new delivery speed metrics. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. Next, we'll talk about the impact of Amazon's push for one-day delivery on the broader e-commerce industry as a whole. Then finally, we'll talk about some strategies and tactics that you can employ to really thrive in this new norm of nationwide one-day delivery. So let's first take a look at consumer expectations. Needless to say, consumers love fast and free shipping, and they're growing to expect that on all channels. And marketplaces have responded, and obviously for good reasons. On Amazon, offers with free Prime shipping see about a 50% boost in sales over non-Prime offers. A lot of that's in part because of the increased visibility of Prime offers in terms of being visible to consumers, maybe making the buy box. So Amazon Prime offers have 50% higher sales than non-Prime offers. And in a similar way, on Walmart, offers with free 2-day shipping have a 50% higher conversion rate than standard offers. So as you can see, there's really good reasons to respond to consumer demand around fast and free shipping. The last one there, we've got a little bit of a question mark in there, is, is this something that you're doing on your own website? A lot of merchants will prioritize orders on other marketplaces ahead of orders that they get on their own website. And we really encourage people to kind of hold yourself to the same standard of fulfillment for orders that happen on your website and put that same energy into those and same fulfillment strategy to those as you would on other channels, because that can ultimately be a lot more profitable for you, even though the traffic and that sort of thing may not be as high. It's a good way to close more deals on your highest profit channel. So next, we'll take a look at what the Amazon SFP requirements are and kind of really what's behind this from Amazon's perspective. So essentially, Amazon is really pressuring sellers, third-party sellers on the Amazon platform to adapt to a new norm of nationwide one-day delivery. And the way that they're doing that is they've, effective February 1st, they've instituted 3 new requirements. The first requirement is what's called a delivery promise. So on the product detail page, all Prime offers from third-party sellers doing, seller fulfilled Prime have to show either a 1-day or 1 calendar day or 2 calendar day delivery promise. And we'll talk about the importance of what that calendar day means versus maybe a business day. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and we'll dig into what a delivery promise is in Amazon terms. The other requirement is they're requiring merchants to offer weekend fulfillment and delivery. So e-commerce is no longer a 5-day-a-week business. It's now at least a 6-day-a-week business from a fulfillment perspective. And of course, the carriers have been doing 6- and 7-day delivery for a while now. But with this change, Amazon has mandated that sellers do offer fulfillment at least one of the 2 weekend days. And then the final change is that Amazon has actually discontinued what was called regional Prime. So prior to this change, prior to February 1st, third-party sellers on Amazon could actually offer free Prime shipping just regionally. So they could carve out a zip code, around their fulfillment centers and really only offer Prime offers where they can do that, where they can affordably offer, 1- and 2-day deliveries. So for a lot of people, regional seller fulfilled Prime was really, a great moneymaker. It was easy to do because of the radius that they could carve out. But together with all these changes, it's really kind of got a lot of merchants scrambling to try to figure out how to comply with those. A lot of merchants either have or are at risk of losing their Prime status. So throughout this webinar, we'll cover some specific strategies and tactics on how you can address that. And backing up just a little bit, even though these changes, the first level of the changes started at the beginning of February, Actually, Amazon announced these changes back in August of last year. So, uh, basically, sellers on Amazon either thought that Amazon might put the changes off or soften them somehow, but what's come to pass in these last month or so is they're finding that Amazon's really holding tight to these new requirements. So let's take a little bit closer look at what a delivery promise is in Amazon terms. So the delivery promise is what's visible on your product detail page. And you can see in this example, this offer here is a 1-day delivery promise. So where it says free delivery by tomorrow, that's a 1 calendar day delivery promise. Now, I kind of alluded to this a little while ago, but there's actually a really big difference between 1 business day and 1 calendar day. So a business day is not a calendar day. So a business day does not constitute a 1-day delivery promise. We'll take a little bit closer look at that now. So the difference here, we'll illustrate that by an example of an offer that's on your on Amazon with a prime offer. And let's say the consumer takes a look at that on Monday, sometime in the morning before your same day shipping cutoff time. That order ships on Monday and arrives on Tuesday. So that is indeed a 1-day delivery promise. They see the offer one day, they place the order, and they receive it the next day. So let's say that same customer comes back maybe later in the day. They come back and take a look at your offer, maybe at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and it's after your same day shipping cutoff time. So naturally, since it's past your cutoff time, that order is not going to ship until Tuesday. And this is, and even if all your customers are within 1-day coverage, in this case, it would arrive on Wednesday. That doesn't constitute a 1-day delivery promise. That actually constitutes a 2-day delivery promise. So, 2 big things that come into play there. One is the time of day in which the offer is viewed, either before or after your cutoff time. And second, really to meet the new requirement, all your orders will need to be delivered generally within 1 business day. Although the way it looks on your website, it'll look like either a 1-day or 2-day offer. Ideally, what you're shooting for is to deliver everything in 1 calendar day. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at what that looks like throughout the week. So if customers are visiting your website, during the day, so maybe between midnight and 2 p.m., and let's say these customers are all within 1 business day coverage of your shipping point, all those page views on the product detail page, those are all going to show a 1-day delivery promise, generally Monday through Saturday. And this chart is based on the merchant offering fulfillment Monday through Saturday. So after your cutoff time, those are all going to be showing a 2-day delivery promise, with the exception of Saturday. So you'll see that Saturday there is in red because that actually won't qualify for either a 1-day or a 2-day delivery promise. Orders that come in on Saturday after your same day shipping cutoff time, actually won't ship until Monday and arrive on Tuesday. So that actually will be a 3-day promise there and won't really qualify even as a prime offer at that point. So as you can see here, the day of the week and the time of the day have a really big impact on what the consumers see as the delivery promise. Next, we'll take a look at what Amazon has set for the baselines for both of these. So beginning February 1st, Amazon's requirement was for 20% of your product detail page views to be show 1-day delivery. So 20% of the time when consumers look at your product detail page, they would see 1-day delivery. 55% of the time they can see a 2-day or less delivery. So beginning in June, Amazon turns up the heat. In fact, actually, Amazon intended to have this June requirement, the 30% and 70% respectively. They actually had originally planned on having that begin February 1st, but due to COVID and logistic challenges related to the spike in e-commerce, they gave merchants a little bit of a break and pushed that deadline back to June. So beginning in June, the requirement is that the page view, you have to have 30% of your page views need to show a 1-day delivery promise, and 70% of your page views need to show 2 days or less. And in addition to the delivery promise that you need to meet on the page views in order to qualify as a prime listing, Amazon's also holding sellers to a very strict delivery speed metric. In short, sellers really need to deliver according to the delivery promise, or failing to do so can really put sellers at risk of losing their prime status. So, this kind of gives us an idea of what Amazon's done and why they've done that. I'm going to just back up a little bit just to offer a little bit more insight on why Amazon has done this, beyond just consumer preferences, but the reason that Amazon created these new requirements in the first place is that prior to coronavirus, only about 16 or 17% of seller fulfilled prime orders were meeting what Amazon considers a prime offer, being a 1 or 2 day shipment. So Amazon felt like they really needed to turn up the heat to enforce these, and this is how they've done that. All right, next, I want to take a look at kind of the e-commerce trends in general around fast and free delivery, particularly as it relates to Amazon really taking the lead in this space, and illustrate, sort of how other marketplaces have followed. And this is sort of the tie-in for why we expect this same trend to move, well beyond Amazon, to impact sellers on Walmart and other marketplaces. So, taking a look back in 2005, Amazon introduced free 2-day shipping. Everybody thought that was crazy. Several years later, eBay and Walmart and Target have caught up. So you can see there's a big lag in time between when Amazon did this crazy 2-day shipping idea and everybody else caught up. Moving forward to Amazon Prime, they launched that in 2005. It took Walmart several years to catch up with their recently introduced Walmart Plus. But now let's take a look at Prime free 1-day delivery. So Amazon launched that in 2019, and Walmart quickly followed suit, as did Best Buy. So this is why we think that this new standard of nationwide 1-day delivery is going to move well beyond just sellers on Amazon. It's really going to impact sellers really on all other marketplaces. So, this is a lot of sellers are finding themselves kind of at a turning point, and it's important to consider the not only the consumer preferences around fast and free delivery, but around the response that not only Amazon but other marketplaces are having. So in this illustration, we take a look at, even just on the Amazon platform itself, if we had 4 different merchants in 4 different parts of the country, they were all happy with doing Amazon seller fulfilled prime regionally. They've carved out zip codes around their businesses where they can offer 1-day delivery at an affordable price. Now, let's say in this case, uh, merchants in other parts of the country decide to embrace these new Amazon changes, and they start to offer seller fulfilled prime on a national basis. Let's say you in California, and you don't take this action. What happens then is offers from Alfred, Betty, and Charlie will actually start showing up above your own offers, even in your own region. And even if you offer uh, free delivery in your own region, it's still not going to qualify as a prime offer. So it's very likely that offers from other merchants are going to show up ahead of yours. So this is an illustration that covers how the impact of making adopting this new Amazon SFP requirements or not on the Amazon platform. But if we take a step back and look at this from a broader perspective, these same merchants that are taking advantage and learning how to offer nationwide 1-day delivery on Amazon, there's no reason why they can't use those same skills and that same infrastructure to offer nationwide 1-day delivery on other channels. So not only is Amazon going to get a lot more competitive as it relates to nationwide 1-day delivery, but all the merchants that do take action and do embrace this are going to have a competitive advantage really on all the marketplaces that they sell on. So this change, is first impacting Amazon. We expect that it will start to impact other channels in the near future. So this is a really good time to take a close look at your nationwide fulfillment strategies and look how you can apply some of the recommendations that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. All right, so we kind of talked about what the problem was. Now we want to get into what are some solutions. How can you embrace and adopt to this new norm of nationwide 1-day delivery? So the first thing to look at is to look at maximizing your same day fulfillment 6 or 7 days a week. And we'll get into some strategies on exactly how you can do that here in just a little bit. The next part of the strategy is to increase your 1-day coverage to nationwide. If any of you participated in the Amazon's webinar, that was one of their tips for adapting to the new requirements, is to increase your prime coverage to nationwide. So we'll talk about some ways that you can do that. And finally, and it looks like a lot of the people here on the webinar are already doing this, but selling on 3 or more channels really gives you an opportunity to boost your sales by about 100%, according to a recent Shopify study. So these are some 3 different strategies that you can use to really embrace this nationwide 1-day delivery and turn it into a competitive advantage. So next we'll take a look at some strategies that you can use to maximize your same day fulfillment. First, as Amazon has mandated, it's going to be necessary to start doing weekend pickups. And sorry about that for people that aren't already doing that, but it is a mandate when it comes to Amazon. And as we discussed, this same trend is going to be following in other marketplaces. So a lot of different considerations there. You may have higher operational costs. You may need to hire additional people for the weekend, different training to get the weekend staff trained. We'll take a closer look at carriers, but there's a lot of considerations for increasing your fulfillment to 6 or 7 days. From what we've seen, merchants are choosing to have Saturday be their additional day. Some customers for religious and other reasons are choosing Sunday. But one way or the other, you do need to start shipping at least 6 days a week to really comply not only with the Amazon SFP requirements, but to really be competitive with nationwide 1-day delivery. The next thing to do is to look at increasing the number of hours that you can spend not only shipping orders, but increase the number of hours that your product detail page views show one-day delivery. So Amazon's standard minimum cutoff time is about 2 p.m. That gives you about 14 hours a day of showing a one-day delivery promise. Whereas if you just increase that to 5:30 p.m., with looking at about a 6 p.m. Pickup, if you can make those arrangements with your carrier, that really gives you two different advantages. One, it gives you a longer period of time to have the one-day delivery promise show up on your Amazon Prime offers. It also gives you a few extra hours a day to fulfill same-day orders. And usually a pickup time a little bit later, you'll need to work directly with your carriers on that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here shortly. So, as you're making this change, looking at weekend pickups and weekend fulfillment and later pickups, you'll need to really work closely with your carriers and find carriers that are supportive of that. In this chart, we show the carriers that offer weekend delivery as a standard service. When it comes to weekend pickups and late pickups, that's something that you're going to need to reach out to your account manager and make special arrangements with them to accommodate whatever your new schedule looks like. But having good relationships with your carriers and getting them to work with you on this is something that's really instrumental to adopting to this new norm. Next thing to look at is actually your shipping software. This is one of the things that's really often overlooked. A lot of people take their shipping software for granted. They don't take the time to consider how much time people are spending on routing orders to different locations, to managing complex shipping rules, to manually routing orders that don't fall within the complex shipping rules. We've seen merchants spending 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day just manually routing and rate shopping individual labels, and spending a lot of time on that they could be fulfilling orders. So if you're still using traditional shipping software, something to take a look at, see how much time your shipping department's really spending on label generation, and look for some of the more automated solutions out there that do all the order routing and rate shopping without the complex rules. So there's some options out there to consider. And just by doing something as simple as updating your shipping software, that too can give you several more hours a day in fulfillment time to maximize the number of orders that you fulfill each day. So finally, we'll look at what your options are to increase your one-day coverage to nationwide. The first option, which is not much of an option, but is certainly to start shipping everything next day air. It's really not an affordable option. Something going from Los Angeles to New York by ground would cost about $10. Second day is about double that. Next day is 3 to 4 times that time. So it is an option, but not a good one. Let's talk about some other ones that are better. So really the most cost-effective way to offer one-day delivery nationwide is to distribute your inventory to locations where you can offer one-day ground delivery, coast to coast. Next, we'll take a look at some of the different ways you can do that, and we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of each of those. And before we get into that, we're up for our next poll. Matt, if you could launch that for us. So the questions we've got here are, how many fulfillment locations do you currently use? And how many fulfillment locations do you think that you need to offer nationwide one-day delivery. Let's see if I can launch this. Yep, I'll launch this. All right, here we go. So this is a little bit of a trick question. We're going to cover some answers for this, but just curious on what you think, what you have now in terms of fulfillment, and how many locations you think you might need to accommodate that new nationwide one-day delivery standard. All right. Actually, there's some pretty good guesses here. It looks like a lot of people are not too far off. So we'll give this just another minute or another few seconds. All right. So let me share this one. Okay, so it looks like most people have one location, and the estimates for how many they need to be able to offer one-day nationwide coverage range from 2 to 8 to 10. So I'll just say that the people that were in the 8 to 10 were a little bit closer. So we'll dig into what that looks like right now. Bear with me one second. There we go. All right. So how many locations do you need? With 2 locations, you can cover about 23% of the population with one-day coverage. So, looking back at what the Amazon Seller Fulfilled Prime requirement is for a one-day delivery promise, this would give you the equivalent of about 10%. Now, for the February 1st requirement, that was 20%. So let's take a look at what you would need to hit the current requirement of 20%. So for the current requirement of 20% of your product detail pages showing a one-day delivery promise, you need about 4 locations. That gives you it gives you one-day coverage to about 42% of the population. Now, looking forward to the June requirement coming up in less than 90 days. To hit that metric, you'll need about 9 locations. And what that does is that gives you one-day coverage to about 63% of the population, and that adds up to 30% of your product detail pages showing a one-day delivery promise. So those of you that guessed, between 8 and 10, congratulations, you're right on the nose. So now that we understand about how many locations you need to be able to offer, one day ground delivery coast to coast, let's look at some of the different strategies that you can employ to do that. And we'll do a little bit of we'll do a deeper dive on each one of these individually. But of course, the first most obvious, maybe the most expensive strategy would be to build or lease your own warehouses. If you're selling on Amazon only, an option would be to switch everything over from Seller Fulfilled Prime to Amazon FBA. Of course, Walmart doesn't allow FBA to service the Walmart marketplace, so this option will really only be available for those exclusively selling on Amazon. Third option is to outsource to multiple 3PLs, and we'll talk about that in more detail. And the last option that we'll cover, which is what Cahoot offers, just being transparent about that, is to join a peer-to-peer fulfillment network. So we'll take a look at sort of the pros and cons of each of those as we move forward. So we won't spend a lot of time on this because this is out of reach for a lot of people, but needless to say, building or leasing your own warehouses is a costly option. Industrial rents are at an all-time high because of the spike in e-commerce that we've seen over the last year. Operational costs can be a little bit higher. If you open up your own warehouses and they're operating at peak efficiency, you know, every day of the year, then your operational costs would be very low, but it's hard to keep each location operating at peak capacity, all of the time. So operational costs can tend to be higher, especially early on. They may get better as you move along and get more efficient. The technical requirements are really where it starts to get into heavy lifting. So software for small and medium-sized businesses to manage multi-location fulfillment are kind of far and few between and kind of expensive. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges with, in addition to the financial cost of building or leasing your own warehouses, is the technical requirements. And of course, being your own warehouses, you've got total control of inventory. So that's definitely a positive for this option. The next one is really a no-brainer if you're doing only selling on Amazon. Amazon FBA is a great choice for that. It gives you, setup is easy. It's very simple to use. Tech requirements are also very simple. So once it's set up and you distribute your inventory, everything works pretty smoothly. So it's really a no-brainer in that regard. Where it starts to become problematic for some merchants is in the operational costs. Amazon FBA is really meant for fast-moving SKUs, that turn over quickly. So things that you want to take a look at that can impact your operational costs there are going to be the speed at which your inventory turns over. During peak season, there can be additional surcharges. If your inventory doesn't meet their requirements in terms of the speed in which it goes through, the system there, you can start to incur higher storage costs. And of course, with Amazon, there are a lot of inventory restrictions in terms of new products being limited to 200 units. If your products don't move quickly enough to meet the inventory performance index, you can incur either additional storage charges, or they may not qualify for replenishment. So Amazon's a great choice if you have fast-moving SKUs that you only want to sell on Amazon. But if they don't fit the Amazon mold, it can become costly over time. All right, the next option that we'll take a look at are using multiple 3PLs. So this is still a relatively popular option. Some merchants find it hard to, really find the right kind of 3PLs that are good at doing e-commerce. Especially, it's hard to find 3PLs that are, willing and able to meet the really high standards of seller fulfilled prime and other marketplaces. Consequently, your operational costs can come a little bit higher as a result of that. And there's also some things depending on your marketplaces and 3PLs, you might get stuck into 3PLs fulfilling orders prior to you fulfilling orders, even though you might be a little closer. So you want to kind of look out for relationships like that. In most cases, 3PLs are mom and pop organizations. They're great to work with individually, but each one might have different service level agreements. They may not all be using, in fact, they probably won't be all be using the same software. So the technical requirements of working with multiple 3PLs, in terms of software, getting them to adapt to your shipping methods and sales channels can really be complex and costly. There's not a lot of really great options for software to help you manage fulfillment across multiple 3PLs. And ultimately, this can get more complex with different time zones. So to be able to offer one day, nationwide one day delivery, you're going to be working with 3PLs across different time zones. So it's important to consider that as well. So the final option that we'll take a look at is to join a peer-to-peer network. So a peer-to-peer network is a network of highly vetted merchants who have proven their ability to do fulfillment at the industry's highest standards. So essentially, it's a group of e-commerce merchants, many of which are doing seller fulfilled prime or other fast and free delivery as part of their own business. They in turn offer these services to other merchants through the platform, and together they end up with a really comprehensive, nationwide one-day delivery network and at very affordable costs. So in terms of the setup and complexity, the setup is very simple. It's very similar to those that are doing Amazon FBA, so it's pretty simple to do. Operational costs are affordable. There's a recurring platform fee, but you're also have the opportunity to make money fulfilling orders for the network. So, a couple different ways that you can work with it. You can either outsource fulfillment to the network, and that's sort of the end of it, or you can also fulfill orders for the network and offset some of your outsourced fulfillment costs. And the tech requirements are actually very simple too. So the experience for the merchant, it's similar to FBA in the sense that the setup and the workflows are very automated and simple to use over time. In terms of control, you definitely have less control over this than you would if you had your own warehouse. Similar to FBA, it's necessary to have products prepped for fulfillment in terms of barcodes and things like that. So you do lose a little bit of control there, but you do get nationwide one-day coverage. The other thing that in terms of SKUs and that sort of thing, whether it's a fulfillment network like this or FBA or some other option, it's really best for fast-moving SKUs. This type of scenario doesn't really work for long tail SKUs or very slow-moving SKUs. All right, and in just a moment, we'll get to the questions, but just to kind of wrap things up, to really embrace and thrive in this new norm of nationwide one-day delivery, we encourage people to maximize their same-day deliveries 6 to 7 days a week, expand your one-day coverage to nationwide, and to start selling on more channels. And if you do that, you've got a good opportunity to increase your sales by about 100%. So before we get into questions, we'll do one more poll. And this is just a quick poll just to let us know if you're on the webinar and you'd like to get some more information about Cahoot, just let us know there, and we're happy to follow up. Give that just another moment here. Great. So, Aldi, I think you've been sort of fielding the questions that have been coming in. So we'll end that poll. Thanks for letting us know about that. And we'll move on to Q&A.
Yeah, Mike, thank you so much for our presentation. I think it covers a lot of ground in terms of like how we can get one-day delivery and like nationwide fulfillment. I have a question that I want to ask Manish, which is what makes Cahoot different from popular 3PL solutions like Deliverr or ShipBob, which a lot of people are already using?
Thank you, Aldi. Really appreciate everyone sticking around. Before I answer that question, I do want to share very hot news that just happened yesterday, and to piggyback on Mike's comments that what happens on Amazon doesn't stay on Amazon, and Walmart is quickly pursuing all the same strategies. And just yesterday, Walmart announced that they're dropping the $35 minimum for their express delivery service. So Walmart has an express delivery service comparable to Amazon Prime now. That's a grocery primarily used for 2 hours or less. And Walmart is now competing on par with Amazon's Prime Now service as part of its Walmart Plus subscription. So this is something that is free and fast delivery is not going to be limited to Amazon. It is definitely coming to every other channel, and especially Walmart. So a lot of the folks who are selling on Walmart should be prepping, because what we found is a lot of Amazon sellers were caught off guard. So this is a great opportunity to get ahead. And to respond to your question, Aldi, what makes Cahoot different? Cahoot is the only technology solution that allows merchants that have their own warehouse to coexist as part of its network. When you use a service like ShipBob and Deliver and others, which are good services, merchants have to either do technical integration, or they have to isolate the orders and give them to deliver to fulfill, for example, all the Walmart orders. However, Cahoot believes that if merchant has one or more warehouses of their own, we should be fulfilling orders from the most optimum location, and this should not require a lot of technical expertise, and it should not require heavy investments in technology. And that's the beauty of the Cahoot software, that you can use the Cahoot software with or without the order fulfillment network, so that you can come in and out as your business demands, as your needs demand. And beyond that, Cahoot has the industry's highest fulfillment standards, because Cahoot is built to support Amazon Prime, which of course is the gold standard. Walmart is trying to get there, but it's not quite there yet. And Amazon standards are extremely unforgiving, and Cahoot supports those. So Cahoot merchants generally see much faster order turnaround time. Cahoot merchants get to see weekend delivery, and Cahoot merchants see much faster receiving time, in addition to favorable pricing. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I'll just add that as a standard feature, Cahoot Fulfillment's available 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Great. Anything else, Aldi?
Thank you, Manish and Mike. I think there hasn't been more questions from the audience, so I'll throw another question that is prepared. So, which item should a merchant keep in SFP, and which ones they should consider placing elsewhere, like in other services, like FBA?
Well, I mean, this is again, whether you keep SFP or FBA, or you have multiple warehouses of your own, the same law of physics applies, which is you need to have sufficient inventory in order to split the inventory across multiple locations. When accounting for safety stock, if you have very little inventory, it really doesn't make sense to split that 4, 5, 7 ways. So some of the items that are suitable for SFP versus FBA is also to do with the fee structure and also the time of the year. As you know, FBA has punitive surcharges in the fourth quarter, whereas Cahoot does not have any such surcharges. We also do not experience the kind of delays in receiving inventory, which is also a plus for our merchants. And one needs to take into account the inbound cost, because when you send inventory to multiple warehouses, if you send a large amount of inventory in a pallet, the per unit cost is going to go down than to send via UPS, parcel, or a box. So generally speaking, your top selling items, the ones that have a good sales velocity, make sense to place in multiple warehouses, and the ones that are small and light, because FBA pricing is very favorable for under 10-ounce products. And if those items are moving fast, then they would be good candidates for FBA.
All right, great. Any other questions that have either come in or we typically get asked around these things? Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to do this, and I'll turn this over back over to Matt to wrap up.
Yeah, Mike, thank you so much to you and your team. Great presentation. I took a lot of notes, and I'm looking forward to watching the video back through again to get some things down that I missed. But thank you to you and your team. And just give us your contact information one more time if someone's interested in getting in touch with you or any other member of the Cahoot team. It's up on the screen. Perfect timing.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah, perfect timing. All right. Well, again, thank you all. Great presentation, and I appreciate everyone for joining us today. We'll see you again soon.